lesson on tacking today. We talked about grooming the last time. We have pre-groomed her to make sure that she is clean so we don't get any rubs where our tack goes. So tack can include not only your saddle, but it would include your bridle, your reins, anything that we dress our horse in is considered tack. So this is Pumpkin. She has what we call a hybrid halter on. There are 2 knots on her nose. It gives a little bit of control without having to put a bit in her mouth. The first piece of equipment that we have is what we call a non-slip pad. So we're going to put the non-slip pad on our horse's back, and the reason we have this piece of equipment is because our pony is a little round, and so this is going to make it so that our saddle doesn't slip as easily. And then we're going to put on what we call a saddle pad. This is an English saddle pad, and it is kind of a thin pad, so it protects the horse from the leather on the saddle. All right, so this is our English saddle. It's very lightweight, and there's not a whole lot to an English saddle. There are multiple kinds of English saddles depending on usage. We have a hunt saddle, we have a dressage saddle, we have an all-around saddle, all-purpose. So we're gonna gently put it on her back, and I'm putting my hand under it so that the flaps of the saddle don't get folded up underneath. Okay, so when we put our tack away, on the English we run our stirrup irons up so that when we go to tack her up, it's not going to smack her in the side, or when we're carrying it, it doesn't bang on her knees. The front of the saddle is called the pommel, and that's easy to remember because it's by the palm of our hand. And the back of the saddle is called a cantle. That's where our seat is in the middle. So these straps here are called billets, and you'll notice there's 3, but on our girth we only have 2. So one reason that we would have 3 billets would be for safety. If one were to break when you were out, then you've got another billet to connect your straps to. But also it can play a factor in placement. Some people can use the front 2 or the back 2, but if your saddle fits properly, we usually use the first and the third.
When you're ready.
All right, so we're starting out here kind of low on these billets, especially on what we call the near side, which is the left side of the horse. On the off side of the horse, I might go up a little bit higher. When we get ready to mount, usually your instructor will come by and do a girth check. But if it's your horse and you're riding it, you still want to do it. Now, personally, I do a girth check anyway, whether somebody else has done it or not. I'm the one that's going to fall if my tack isn't tight. So the way I like to do this is I take 2 fingers and I'm going to come in from the back side towards the middle, and you'll see a little ring down here. That little ring is what we can attach different equipment to. But if you slide your finger in and you can put 2 fingers, that's about where you want the girth. Now if you can put your whole hand, which I can, then my girth is too loose. If I can only put 1 finger in, my girth is too tight and your horse can't breathe well. So the reason why I want to come in here is as I pull my fingers back out, it is smoothing the hair back down so that there's not hair bunched up underneath the girth that could cause issues. Also, you don't want to check your girth here because this is where their little girly curves are. And so I can fit 2 hands in here, but if I tightened it up so tight that I couldn't fit anything but 2 fingers there, I'm probably going to squeeze the breath out of my horse. So anytime we want to adjust the girth, we're going to go up 1 or 2 holes at a time, okay? So that we're not wrenching on the billets. It'd be kind of like after Thanksgiving dinner, if somebody came by and tightened your belt up really tight around your tummy, that's not going to feel real good. So we want to make sure our horse is comfortable, but still not have a loose girth. Okay, so one other thing we do actually want to remember is this pad here, we want to bring it up into the gullet so that air can get through here and keep her a little bit cool. When we check for saddle fit, we want to be able to look through and make sure that both the front and the back are even. If by chance, and I'll move this up a minute, we get the girth placed incorrectly, as in too far up on the neck, which is obvious, our pommel is going to be higher than our cantle. And if you noticed, I put it up first so that when I pull it back, I'm going to put the hair back where it belongs also. If I have it too far back on my horse, my cantle is going to be higher than my pommel. So when we're looking at saddle fit, we want to make sure that the pommel and the cantle are relatively even. So some dressage saddles have a really, really high cantle, and so do some of the Western saddles. But as a rule, your saddle should be level.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick tack check. And this is extremely important every time you use a piece of equipment. So up here, I'm looking at where the stirrups connect. We're looking at this bar here. Because this is a jump saddle, all-purpose, we want it in the open position for any work done on the flat, on the ground, as in not over jumping fences. If we are going to jump, we want to push the bar up into the locked position, and that will keep your stirrup from coming off should you get your leg too far back. And especially when you're learning to jump, that can happen a lot. Where if it's in the open position, as you can see, it will slide off rather easily. Our billets, we want to make sure that they're in good working order. Sometimes with these nylon, you can see the hole gets a little elongated. But if it were to tear, then we would want to replace the billets, okay? And also when you're adjusting the saddle, you want to make sure, again, that you would go up easily and evenly. So if I go up 1 on this side, I want to go up 1 on this one as well. My final tack check on the other side before I would mount. It's easier for the instructor to do it on the near side rather than the off side. So I tend to go up a little bit higher on the off side so that my adjustment is on the near side. All right, so that's pretty much it for the English saddle. And again, when you're going to put your equipment away, we want to run our stirrup iron up the back side of the leather and then tuck it in. That kind of locks that stirrup into place. We're going to switch over now to a Western pad and a Western saddle. This is a Western pad, which you can see is much thicker than our English pad. Part of that is due to the fact that a Western saddle is heavier, and so they need a little bit more cushioning. We're gonna put our pad up high on the withers, and then we're gonna slide it back to where it fits. And usually when you have tack that fits a specific horse, it'll kind of slide into its own place. The reason why we want to put it up high and pull it back is so that our hair is still going top to bottom, front to back, rather than if we pulled it forward and we would have a wrinkle under the saddle pad, which could cause irritation on our horse. All right, so here's our Western saddle, and as you can see, there's a lot more to it actually than our English saddle. Then also, it's definitely a little bit heavier than our English saddle. So we have our girth up over the seat. I like to put my stirrup up over the horn so that when I put this equipment over my horse, it doesn't get all bunched up or smack my horse in the side, which could cause her to move into me. So we're going to gently place it on our horse. And the same thing, we want to make sure we're pulling that pad up into the gullet and the saddle kind of rocks into place. From experience, do not throw your stirrup over from the other side, from the near side, or your girth. If it hits something, it may startle your horse and you will have a horse standing on top of you.
Tune in next time for part 2 of Tacking Up. Have a nice day, y'all.